All right, let's get into it. Today we're tackling something, well, something a little unsettling, the relationship between AI and our own brains. We all had this grand vision that AI would make us super smart, right? But what if it's actually doing the exact opposite?
So I'm just going to ask you straight up. Think about it for a second. Is AI making your brain hollow? I know, it's a pretty intense question. Kind of creepy to think about, especially since, let's be honest, we all use this stuff constantly.
Okay, let's try a little thought experiment. Go back, say 10, maybe 15 years. How many phone numbers did you have memorized? Your best friends? The local pizza place? Probably a good handful, right? Now, flash forward to today. How many do you know without looking at your phone? One? Maybe two if you're lucky? And it's the same thing with getting around town. We used to know the streets, the back roads. Now, we're just glued to Google Maps, following that little blue arrow. And look, these might seem like tiny, insignificant changes, but they're pointing to something much, much bigger.
And that really gets to the heart of it. This isn't just about making our lives easier. It's about a huge question that scientists are now seriously starting to ask. Is all this convenience, all this reliance on AI, actually making us dumber? The whole sales pitch for AI was that it would be our co-pilot, right? A tool to boost our brain power. But a whole bunch of brand new research is starting to paint a very different and honestly a much more worrying picture. So, okay, where's the proof? Is this just a feeling or is there real science behind it? Well, the source material we're looking at today zeroes in on three huge studies that all came out in just the last year. And what they found is, well, it's pretty wild. Let's dig in. First up, we've got a study from the MIT Media Lab. So, these are some seriously smart people. And what they wanted to do was literally look inside people's brains to see what happens when they use AI for a pretty common task, writing. And the results were, wow. They were just crystal clear. The people using ChatGPT, their brain activity plummeted. It's like their brains just switched off. And it gets worse. Over the course of the study, they got lazier and lazier until they were basically just copying and pasting. And the kicker? When asked about the essays they had supposedly written, they couldn't even explain them. They had no idea what they said. Okay, fine. That's in a controlled lab setting. But what about out here, in the real world, at our jobs? Well, a second study, this one from Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon, looked at exactly that. They studied 319 professional knowledge workers, people who literally get paid to think. And guess what? The findings were just as alarming. It turned out that the more people trusted and used AI, the less they actually used their own critical thinking skills. And here's the key takeaway. Their mindset completely shifted. They stopped thinking about how to solve the problem and started thinking only about how to get the AI to solve the problem. It's a subtle but massive difference. Their own ability to tackle challenges started to fade. So what we're seeing in both of these studies is a phenomenon with a fancy name, cognitive offloading. But really, it's a simple idea. It's just outsourcing your brain's work. Instead of doing the mental push-up of remembering something, you just Google it. Instead of wrestling with how to structure a report, you just ask ChatGPT to do it. We're basically handing over all the heavy lifting to a machine.
But wait a second. Before we all panic and throw our laptops out the window, isn't this a story we've heard before? I mean, every time a big new technology comes along, there's always a wave of fear that it's going to rot our brains. And you can see this pattern throughout history. It's actually kind of funny. We're talking thousands of years ago. Socrates himself was worried that writing was going to wreck everyone's memory. Fast forward to the 1970s, and it was calculators that were going to destroy math skills. And now, here we are in the 2020s, and the new boogeyman is AI. It really is the same old story, just with new tech. So the big question is this time any different? Or is it just another false alarm? Well, there's a compelling argument that this time it actually is different. And funny enough, the first clue didn't come from super advanced chatbots. It came from something way more mundane that's probably on your phone right now, your navigation app. Because it turns out just finding your way from point A to point B is one of the most complex things your brain does. It's a massive workout for a part of your brain called the hippocampus. And the hippocampus isn't just for directions. It's like the central hub for memory and learning. It's a really, really big deal. And to really get a handle on this, we need to talk about this incredible landmark study. It focused on a very specific group of people, London cabbies. But this was back in the day, before every car had GPS.
See, to become a London taxi driver, you had to pass this absolutely legendary test called the Knowledge. And what it involved was just insane. They had to memorize the layout of 25,000 streets. 25,000 plus thousands of landmarks. It was one of the most intense memory challenges on the planet. So, what happened when scientists actually scanned their brains? Well, take a look. The hippocampus, that memory center we were talking about, was physically bigger in these taxi drivers, way bigger than in the average person. This was a bombshell. It was concrete proof that when you work your brain hard, it doesn't just get better at something, it literally grows. It physically changes. Use it or lose it, for real.
Okay, so why should we care about a tiny part of the brain getting smaller? Well, here's the thing. The hippocampus isn't just your brain's GPS. It's also the library for your personal memories, your life story. It's what helps you imagine the future and plan for it. It's what connects different ideas together to form new insights. So when we just mindlessly follow Google Maps, we're not just letting our sense of direction get rusty, we're letting a critical piece of who we are start to atrophy.
Okay, so that's all a bit doom and gloom, right? If we're outsourcing our thinking all the time and letting our brains get lazy, is there anything we can actually do about it? Well, yes. Let's get into the solution. First things first, we have to understand how our own brains are wired. They're what scientists call cognitive misers. And all that means is that our brains are fundamentally lazy. They're designed by evolution to take the easiest path, to save energy whenever possible. So if there's a tool like AI that can do the work for us, our brain is more than happy to kick back and let it. But here's the catch. Real learning, the kind that sticks, doesn't come from ease. It comes from struggle. It comes from friction, from getting things wrong and trying again. And that leads to this really perfect analogy. Think about our bodies. Modern life gave us cars and elevators, so we don't have to walk as much. Our bodies got weaker, so what did we invent? We invented the gym, a place we go on purpose to do the hard work our daily lives no longer require. The argument here is that we need to do the exact same thing for our minds. If AI is the elevator for our brains, we need to build a mental gym.
So what does a workout at the brain gym actually look like? Well, it's about deliberately choosing to do the hard stuff. It means, doing some math in your head instead of grabbing your phone, playing a game that tests your memory, trying to just focus on one thing without getting distracted, or even just making an effort to learn a new word every day. Small things that force your brain to work.
Now, let's be super clear about this. The point is not to become some kind of tech hermit and abandon AI altogether. That's just not realistic. The real goal is to find a smart balance. It's about using AI for what it's great at, making us more efficient, but not at the expense of our own thinking. We want the best of both worlds, the power of the machine and the sharpness of our own mind. So in the end, it really all boils down to a conscious choice. Are we going to just sit back and let our mental muscles get weak as technology takes over? Or are we going to be deliberate about keeping them strong? So I'll leave you with that one final thought to chew on. If your brain really is a muscle, what's your workout plan?